That's all it
Been on
is.
planes, huh?
Squeezing you in.
Too many plane rides.
Yeah.
You tell us about that crazy ass schedule. I heard about it on the radio.
Yeah.
That's nuts. No, seriously, like,
Yeah.
can you kind of fill us in on everything that's been going on since we last saw you?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I want to just kind of officially say I'm super proud of our 2024 team. I think, obviously my whole life is built around Omaha and the College World Series. And we did not make that, but I'm really proud of what this team accomplished, particularly the back half of the season. I think, when you look at the last half of SEC play, the SEC tournament, and the regional, to take one of the best teams in college baseball on their home field to, we're 2 outs away, from winning that regional and hosting a super regional, which would have been against a really good West Virginia team. I'm super proud of that. As I alluded to in Chapel Hill, it's a heartbreaking loss, other than I've had several of them. You do this long enough, and you play in postseason baseball a lot, that happens. But, outside of losing the 2016 national championship game, that's one of the toughest losses of my career, simply because of the players. And, them staying engaged. I think it's a great life lesson in how you deal with adversity. And, just want to make sure we don't blow past that just because a little bit of time has passed and I haven't been able to talk to you guys. My heart is full when I think about 2024 and the team and how they finished the season. Since then, we flew back a week ago. I don't even know what day it is right now. We flew back a week ago and had exit meetings on Wednesday that were very positive. I think, looking at the players that have committed to return for 2025, you're starting with some really good pieces and some great character. And I think that's something that, I'm comfortable with as a foundation is the people that we have and their commitment moving forward. So I thought those were positive. And then we need to obviously go get some players, having 13 players drafted last year. I think we'll have, could be 5, as few as 5, and it could be as many as 11 probably off of this roster. That's a lot of turnover, over a 2-year period from LSU to professional baseball. And I would guess by the time the 2024 draft ends, that would be the most in the country. And I'm really proud of that, and that's what we're also here to do, is develop guys for professional baseball. Nobody does that better. So it's kind of led to a hustle, I guess you would say, of what we need to do to put our 2025 roster where it needs to be. It will look different by design, and I'm very excited about that. And we've had some good interactions both in campus visits and out on the road here over the past couple of days, and we'll continue that until the first day of school, and putting ourselves in a good position to go forward. And that's a lot, but that's where we're at.
Can you maybe touch on some of those players that maybe have committed to come back for next year?
This is a new world for me. I've had a couple calls maybe that in the meeting one thing was said and then a different result happened. So I don't want to speak for those guys, but when you look at a freshman pitcher like Cade Anderson, coming into the NCAA tournament and pitching the way that he did in back-to-back games, with the talent, the competitiveness, the poise, the improvement, that's something to get excited about. When you have 2 left-handed hitting freshman outfielders, you got one, hitting a homer, in a regional championship game on the road, and Jake Brown, that's something to be excited about. He hasn't even remotely tapped into all of what he's going to be able to do. Ashton Larson had a great freshman season, something to be excited about. Stephen Milam, got chosen for that USA. I don't even know what they're doing. Like, they're having a freshman team and stuff. I don't know what it is, but regardless, great honor. And the improvements that he made. And I spoke a lot about those 4 guys, throughout the year, that's a great starting point for a sophomore class. Easily the best freshman class that we've had in the 3 years that I've been here in terms of what they contributed on the field to the team's success. Chase Shores, to win 43 games and lose a talent like that and not have him available, again, major hat tip, to our team. And he's rolling pretty good. Was throwing a live bullpen the other day, in a rehab thing, and was up to 97.7 miles an hour, and we're 14 months or 13 and a half months off of surgery. Sliders really improved. Him and Coach Yeski have been doing great work on that. You feel great about that. Obviously, there is some situations with, there's some guys kind of maybe in the in-between pro baseball and coming back. All of those guys will be welcomed back, and have a place here relative to, on our roster next year. But even with that, and even with a few of those young players that I just mentioned, we have a lot of work to do to have the team that we want to have, and I think it'll be a lot of high impact. I'm not so worried about the numbers per se. Maybe almost John Calipari, Arkansas basketball model of nine players that are going to play in terms of a basketball team and 3 walk-ons. I don't know what the math is on that on baseball, but that's where my head's at, right now in terms of putting together the roster going forward. And fortunately, at a place like LSU, you can do that, and we're off to a good start, with that and recruiting in terms of the transfer portal and in terms of those players that I had meetings with, and I left plenty of them out. Brady Neal, Jaden Newt, excited to get him on the mound really for the first time. All of those types of things. So it's fluid. It's really fluid right now, and it is what it is. I'm like I said, I'm proud of the recruiting efforts that we've had since I've been here. I'm not a math guy, but somebody said something to me about 137 wins in 3 seasons and a national championship, and it's full steam ahead. And we're in a little bit of a different phase, and that's okay. And if you look around the league, it was a very old league this year, and I think there's going to be a lot of turnover. I kind of thought that between last year and this year. I was wrong about that, but there's good opportunities for the best players are out there to combine with those guys that I just mentioned to build another team that's competitive for the College World Series.
You talked about a new design for this year. Obviously you adjust from year to year. What's the design for this season coming up? Your design, how do you get to that point?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and I'm always evolving in this deal. I think this team we just had was a very deep roster. At the end of the day, you can only have 9 guys in the lineup at one time. For the SEC, I actually play a lot of players. You know what I mean? We actually pitch a lot of guys, and try to do that with development. Win now, obviously, and then development in mind. And the reality is we're in a different landscape right now. I don't think it's about building program anymore. And that's like that's like my wheelhouse. My specialty is developing a program. You know what I mean? I'm very proud of the places that I've been, what we accomplished there, and what they continue to accomplish, from leaving them all in a very good spot. Nevada competed for a championship. I don't think they won it, but they competed for it the next year. Arizona has, been to the NCAA tournament 3 more consecutive years. The first 2 largely with the foundation of players that was hard to leave. The only reason I left was to come here. And but I think it's probably now about building your team 1 year at a time. And I don't say that in any other way other than, I want the guy that Skip Bertman was able to redshirt, okay, and then get in there in some type of role and then elevate that role and then become, a player that everybody around here remembers. The reality of that is that's much more difficult to do, in this landscape today. So we have to adjust. We have to adapt, improvise, and overcome that.
how much can you talk about some of the junior college guys who have at least committed here?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about them.
Okay, and
Yeah.
can you sort of break down, from at least from my count, there have been 5 guys who have committed.
Yeah, I can talk about 4 of them that I know of for sure, and the only reason I won't is just we probably can talk about all 5, but I can't. I'm not sure on one of them, so I'll start with what I know that we can. Tanner Reeves was the first commitment. He committed actually in the spring of 2023, and it was always to come for this next year. And he had a phenomenal freshman season. I think he was maybe the country leader in home runs as a freshman, and I don't think he hit as many home runs this year, but he ended up hitting over 370. He was the MVP of the Junior College World Series, I believe. Or he broke the hits record in the Junior College World Series. His team won the national championship. Very versatile player, a guy that might be able to play every position but pitcher and catcher because he's a great athlete, left-handed hitter, a player that I've had a ton of success with. So I'm really excited about Tanner and excited to get him here. It feels like it's been a long time, since he's been committed. And here he'll be up in the Northwoods League for part of the summer, and then the plan is to get him here for summer school and get him here with Coach McMillan on the back half of that. Blaze Priester, so I was named a junior college All-American today, which happy for him. He's evolved a lot since he was here the last time physically, and has really good power. Those types of things. I think he's refined a little bit as a hitter, and so that's great. Trevor Schmidt hit a bunch of homers, this year. Guy we signed during the spring from California, left-handed hitter. Power, obviously with Tommy, moving along, and my hope is to keep Jared. Obviously he's kind of in that bucket of 6 guys that maybe it could go either way. But Trevor has some versatility in terms of first base, outfield, those types of things, and has some power. Connor Ware, left-handed pitcher who dealt with some injury stuff this year, was able to get back at the end of the season, pitch in the postseason, has a great arm, a really important recruit for us. So that's kind of the 4 that we have a start with that I feel comfortable, talking about right now, and it helps add some age, with a little bit of attrition due to the 24, 20 to 24 players that will have been drafted over the last couple of years. It helps with that. I will tell you that our assessment of those guys was we believed they were as good as anybody that would come available in the portal this summer, and knowing that that's an option now. So I'm very excited about that. And I think, as I mentioned with the guys that have committed to come back, I think the character thing with those guys is really strong as well.
Last year you said you kind of fell behind the curveball or the 8-ball because of how long you stayed going on. Do you feel like, while it's unwelcome advantage, at least you're out there?
Yeah, no, I don't think I said that. I said I think you have to stay on top of both, which there's only so many hours in the day. I don't know that it is or it isn't. What a recruiting endorsement it is to, win a national title and guys run around the field out there. And, we got Luke Holman and Gage Jump, in the middle of playing in the College World Series. I don't think they came here because we were playing in the College World Series last year. But I mean, there's no time right now. Like it's actually hard to imagine almost with what's transpired here over the last week, going back and competing for a national championship. But that's the best 2.5 weeks of my life. I wouldn't trade that for anything. And we'll find a way back there. And I'm excited to take on that challenge anytime it comes. And like I said, second toughest loss of my career, probably largely because I didn't want to stop with this team and what they had done. Like, it won't be one that's written about as much as like the 2023 team or the 1997 team that comes along when you win the last game. But there is a lot of awesome things that happened, with those guys that were here this year.
Managing the time and splitting your focus was more difficult last year than it was in, say, 2016 when you made it all the time?
Well, there was no transfer portal in 2016.
Right. So
There was no.
it's been hard.
Yeah, it's just it is what it is. I don't really think of it that way, and I've probably said this a bunch of times. Like, hey man, just tell me what the rules are. tell me what the guidelines are. You know, we're going to run our program ethically, and we're going to stay within those guidelines. But then how do we use that to create a competitive advantage for LSU? And so I try not to ever get caught up in my feelings, you know, stealing from my man, you know, Coach Saban. You have feelings and you have choices. If you let your feelings dictate your choices, you're not going to be successful. If you make a choice to overcome your feelings, you can get a lot of things done.
Obviously, you've been extremely busy, but this is something we obviously have to ask you about. Paul Mainieri has, I guess, reportedly been taking the South Carolina job. Do you have any sort of thoughts on that or anything of the sort?
Yeah, he called me yesterday, and I was just congratulated him. And if he's earned the right at this time in his life to choose what he wants to do. He's a great coach, Hall of Fame coach, and been very good to me, you know, in my time here. You know, so happy for him. And you know, he's a competitive guy. He's got that fire. You know, he'll put good people around him. Smart. And they'll probably be really good. That's probably what will happen. And so, you know, I'm happy for Coach. You know, if that's what he wants to do.
Is it a unique situation to be able to now compete against him? And
you know, I've never even really thought about that because of like I've never coached against him. Period. So I think those kinds of things, like, I guess they matter. They don't matter as much as everybody thinks they do, because if Paul Skeens is on the mound, I was winning. Like, I mean, if Dylan Cruz is in the box, if Tommy White's in the box, and I'm excited because I think, you know, those are some key guys, but, you know, like, we haven't had the luxury, and you often don't, and nobody played the 3 freshmen on a daily basis on the back half of the schedule like we did. And I think that's an awesome advantage, you know, moving forward.
There's been recruiting, but as the Texas job came up, and your name was mentioned with it, have they contacted you in any way, or your agent, and basically with you, is it just like, I'm at LSU, that's what I'm doing?
I have not been contacted, and contractually, if I was to be contacted, Scott Woodward would be the first person that knows, because that's what it says in my contract, and I'm very, very thankful to be here, and very thankful to be here, and excited about where we're headed. It's going to look a little different than maybe I thought like 18 months ago, but that's okay. You know, like I said, I think I'm built for this job incredibly well, because you're just going to face a lot of bullets coming at you. And as I told you guys, like, yeah, we're not in Omaha, but there was nobody better positioned to help us get through what we did than me, and that's exactly what happened. And I'm not saying it's because of me, but I feel like I'm very well positioned to be or help LSU and the players that commit and stay at LSU to be really successful. And that's where my focus is at.
Did you learn that maybe you need to do more team stuff, less field stuff with teams nowadays?
We have a process that's always under construction. You know, what I want, I want to be in Omaha. I think it's a special experience, you know. I want to help players develop for professional baseball, and I'll stand by that. Nobody does that better. And, you know, I don't have to, it's not an opinion, you know, it's like factual in terms of guys in the big leagues that our staff has had over my time at Nevada, Arizona, and LSU. So we're always going to develop. So you can't develop unless you're on the field and provide a great platform for improvement and execution. It doesn't. It's like hard work, determination, investment. Like, none of those things guarantee you success. But I know without it, you don't have a chance. So we're going to be a baseball first place. Like, you can't like baseball and play for me. You build your life around baseball, or this is not the place. This is how it's going to be. As far as the team dynamic, none of them are ever perfect. You don't start 3-12 in the SEC, win 43 games, have a team that has a legitimate chance to hold the trophy, and we're 2 outs away. We're 2 outs and 1 strike, or we're 1 out, 2 strikes, 1 strike away. A couple times with somebody that I said and I believe is one of the best pitchers in the country in Gage Jump. Give it to me 1,000 times out of 1,000. So to me, it wasn't perfect. It needed growth. That's what we're here for, as a coach, is to develop all parts of his organization. Like, we didn't maybe have it at the beginning, but we had that. You know what I mean? And it will be better a year from now as we adjust some things in our process, personnel, structure, how we do some things. Hey, man, if you got to go bowling, instead of take ground balls, if that's gonna help get me to Omaha or back to a second national championship or a third national championship series, like, let's go bowling.
Coach, with the 6 guys, I think you said it was,
Yeah.
kind of 50-50
Mhm.
coming back in the draft. What are those conversations like with them?
They were incredibly positive, and it's why, like, they all have an open door here. It's not rocket science. It's like, draft eligible sophomores, Herring, Jones. I don't know how they're viewed. I don't spend a lot of time looking at that stuff. I know their value to me, value to LSU baseball, value they could create for themselves next year is really high. And they have a platform here to do that, and in both of their cases, if they were to return for a third year, they could leave as, two of the best, one of the best pitchers and hitters to ever play here. When you think about Jared, national championship, hit over 300 as a freshman, 14 homers. Then he hit, 28 home runs this year? Something like 26, 28 home runs. Okay, and then it'd be like kind of his team, his lineup. You know what I mean? And, if he does that again, now you're talking, a completely different thing in terms of his value for himself and what he accomplished here, even though he's already accomplished a lot. Griffin, we don't win the national championship without Griffin. Pitching in the regional final against Oregon State, 4 1/3 or 2/3 against Wake Forest. Lights out reliever this year. We don't have the season that we had without Griffin doing what he did when he did it. And then he's going to, pitch on the weekend. Like, I have no problem, like, saying that. Like, he's earned that. He's one of the best pitchers I've ever coached. So if he comes back, now he puts together a season he's capable of. He's one of the best pitchers that ever played here. And those guys care. Like, the hay's in the barn. The investment has been made, And now it's just a matter of if the right opportunity, if somebody's going to jump up and take those guys in the first round or the top 50 picks, I would support them to go. I would, because it doesn't come along, and we'll figure out a different way. And that's part of what our job is to do here. But if they don't, I'd love to have them back. Braswell had a great season. The improvement offensively, again, that's why, there's a lot of good places. There's only one LSU. And in terms of development for pro baseball, you don't have to look far at his numbers to go, like, look how much that guy improved in a season. And look beyond the numbers. Look at his play in the SEC tournament. Look at his play in the regional. Look at his defense the last half of the season. Like, I'm super proud of Michael. I'm super proud of Michael. And he was so geared into the team, too. And really grew through, some things, there. Pearson, obviously, clutch guy. Would love to have Josh back. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have surprised me if he hit a game-winning home run. And we walked off and everybody had been losing their minds, and he hit it right on the nose against a pitcher we couldn't do anything against. And that's who he is. Homers in the national. So, like, he's welcome back. Justin Lohr, I'm forgetting one more. Oh, Fidel, you know what I mean? Great fastball, great slider. I think he can do more as well. And I'm super proud of him, too. So I'd love to have all those guys back. And it is a open lane for any one of those guys to return here and be a part of what we're doing, because they are 1,000% bought into this, and they're really good players too. And, this time in these guys' lives, you don't notice it all the time, but it's the best baseball they're going to play. It's the best baseball that they're going to play. And you could bring some of those 2023 guys back. They're having great success in professional baseball. And if it's like, hey, man, all things equal, what would you prefer to do? They would choose this all the time. Now, I don't know about Paul striking out Ohtani and stuff like that. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, but this is a good time. And so none of them are in a hurry to get out of here. And I think they know their value here is strong. And somebody's going to have to value them strong, to move them on.
Part of roster construction, obviously, is the incoming freshman class the high school is right now. How many of those guys do you sort of anticipate have a better chance than not to go in the draft? And
yeah, I'm not a scouting director, and I say this like, I've been doing this forever, and I just mentioned my life's built around Omaha. One of the most significant periods of time is the Major League Baseball draft in terms of how you're set up. I just think it's so different now than it's ever been before. I don't know. I mean, pro baseball has so much money. There's no more spots in the big leagues than there's been in recent time, but they have so much more money that they can probably entice, a high school player to go do that. I like the group that we have. Really like it. I like the versatility of the different types of players and pitchers that are in there. I wouldn't even begin to speculate, who's going to go and who's not. I mean, I can, look at Jim Callis's list on MLB Pipeline or whatever, and I mean, the names that are higher, you probably have a harder time of holding on to those guys, But could there be a positive surprise in there or two? Yes. Could there be a negative surprise in there or two? Yes. And they'll know that we value them, that we care about them, and I still think this is the best path. I think, playing and winning a national championship last year, being in that regional at North Carolina, heartbreaking, crushing. That's one of the better. I'll never forget that week the rest of my life. The value that our players can gain from playing in those types of games, and that's all we did from the start of SEC play on until the end of the season. You can't duplicate that anywhere else. And still, call me the older soul, playing for something that's bigger than yourself still has value. It may not be valued by a 19-year-old the way that it is by me, but it still has value. And when you see, how much the group success means to your elite players, Tommy White didn't want to take his jersey off. Okay, he's going to be okay. He's going in the first round. You know what I mean? That tells you everything you need to know about the value of what this is here.
It's clear you guys need to add talent, and you have to balance that, obviously, with the draft next month.
Yeah.
How much of that work do you want to get done over the next couple weeks versus waiting until the draft and seeing who you get back, who's coming, that kind of
Yeah, inexact science. But like I said, I feel like I have a blueprint in my head of probably 12 or 13 position players that are really going to contribute, 9 to 11 pitchers, and the rest of the roster needs to be able to do something really well and be completely bought into what we're doing at LSU. And that's how I see it going.
At this point last year, how accurate were you, looking back in August, knowing what the draft was probably going to do to you, how many you had to give in the transfer portal, the recruiting transfer portal now?
Yeah, we need more than we've needed. I mean, that's just the way that it is. And again, that's a SEC record of draft picks and a chance to have double digit. I don't know if we will or won't have double digit. It could be 5, it could be 11. It could be somewhere in between. Odds are it's probably somewhere in between those two numbers. But 21 professional baseball players moving out over 2 years, it's just the way that it is. And so we're working, but the solutions aren't always from the outside. The solutions are DJ Primo, who on a different staff probably would have got more opportunities. But he cares about this place. He has a great relationship and working relationship with Coach Yeski. We had a good pitching staff. Somebody said this to me, we had better numbers this year without the best pitcher on the planet that we had last year, collectively. That's good. But it maybe made some guys a little harder to get in there than they'd like. Well, that's just a guy that's saying, I get it. Cade Anderson. Could have started Cade Anderson the whole time. We did start him on Tuesdays. But understands, hey, there's a lot of value in being here and what I'm doing. So Chase Shores, Cade Anderson, the position player group improving, that's a lot of the solution. Now, to compete for a national title, you got to have more than that. Yeah. And that's, I had to make the same decision right when I first got here. You know what I mean? Of hey, we need more. You know what I mean? If you want to play on TV next weekend or this weekend coming up, you have to you got to have it, because if you can't match up in our league, it is what it is. We've seen it. You saw 2 national champions not make the SEC tournament the next year. So you have to be able to match up. Part of matching up is the improvement of the players on your team and we were well positioned for a lot of improvement from guys from this year to next year because of what they got to do this year. And then we need some help around them, and we're going to go get it.
Beyond the draft, what are the main dates through the summer where you're really going to feel like, okay, this is the hurdle date? What are the hurdle dates?
I don't know. Like,
I mean, when your signings have to be in by.
oh yeah. So, we made a real commitment to strength and conditioning. So we're adjusting a little bit this year. Like, we'll bring a lot of those guys in for summer 2 session, and it's right before the draft. So, sure, some potential drama with that. You guys all know how I feel about the word drama. Not a fan. But, I mean, we got guys that have real skill that need to get stronger, and they're going to pour into that for 6 weeks. And so right now it's developmental for all of them. Draft comes and goes, and now there's no more negotiating or wait till they get drafted in the top 10, they're gone. Most of them, if they get drafted, period, they're gone. There's exceptions. I mean, we had a few guys get drafted and show up here that are on our roster, but I think once you get past that, then you look up and see where you're at. And like I said, it's not all about just adding, but we need to add, because of the amount of players that have moved on to professional baseball, and that's just the way that it is.
What do you need to add? I just wonder.
Great pitchers, great hitters, great defenders that are really sold out to the team, and that want to play for something bigger than themselves. Talent that wants to do that.
Can you find that? I just wonder how much college baseball has changed. And is it just all home runs now?
Wow, that's a really good question. At times, it kind of feels like that, doesn't it? I think what's happened, and this has happened at the big league level too, the development of pitching has far exceeded the development of hitting. And, we did not have a bad offense this year, but we need to be better. And, it's hard sometimes to, not be, as complete as you want to be. But, yeah, I just think pitching development, the easy answer is pitching development far exceeds hitting development. And then, what the players come in as a framework for what they think is good baseball, like there's times where we are not remotely on the same page. And so you got to develop and you got to work. And we got better, and we faced a lot of unforgiving pitching, early in the conference schedule that made that hard. But we're going to keep going on it. Like, if you play here, like I said, your life's built around baseball, we're going to work and we're going to develop. And those that stick with it, the product is usually what they want it to be. But you got to stick with it to do that.
Is there maybe the best example of that?
Great example of that. I'm so proud of him. Like, it's not just, the homers are wow. But, like, just the self-control and the ABs. How about the pitch that he took to walk with 2 outs in the ninth to set it up? Then he stole a base. Like, I don't know why they weren't holding him on still, but, gave us a little chance there. But what a great example of that.
Terry Ernie is linked to head of South Carolina, Paul Mainieri. Have you talked to him yet about that?
Yeah, I'm not going to comment for other programs, and Terry is a good coach, and it wouldn't surprise me if he had an opportunity for any job, but that's South Carolina's deal. That's not my deal.
Have you watched the other regionals where they finished, the Florida Clemson third game?
Yeah, I wasn't watching that. I was in a home visit at the time of all the melee. I guess Jack Leggett got ejected.
Yeah.
That's a umpire with a lot of guts to eject that guy in a game like that. Like when you do this, and I'm not talking about right now or this season. Like, I'm talking about sitting at the area code games 19 years ago with Scott Forbes, Eric Bakich, Mark Wazakowski, Nick Mingione's one of my 2 or 3 best friends in the world. Like, it was almost more of an interest of like, wow, how's this weekend going for them? I mean, it's pretty clear, I guess, who the two best conferences in the country are. And, I said something midseason, and a lot of people thought I fell down and hit my head that we would win any other league in America. And I was wrong, but I was only wrong by 2 outs.
Coach, we talked during the season about what kind of led to the up and down play in conference play. And some of it was adversity, kind of learning how to deal with adversity. How do you kind of attack preparing the guys for that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think, obviously, the roster's a long ways from being done. But I think these guys that will return, that experienced this year, will be much better prepared to handle the bullets that come than we were this year. And it wasn't out of non-design or anything. It's just 2023 was so special that we didn't have a whole lot of adversity. And I don't think they thought it was necessarily going to be easy. I just think part of the growing process was really, truly understanding how to handle it and get past it. And it cost us some games early. And sometimes it cost us a game after the game that was the really tough loss. But then they figured it out. They did figure that out. But now, having gone through all of that, I'm excited about that. And, and then part of it's you got to have the right guys on the bus that can do that. And we're working on that. And when I say working on that with the players that are already here, and then anybody we might add to supplement those guys to attack that better, because it's coming. Thank God I never have to face Hagen Smith ever again in my life. As one of the best college pitchers I've ever seen, but there'll be another one. There'll be somebody like him, and hopefully we'll be a little better. And so you play here instead of going on the road, and probably changes things a little bit.
What's the difference between this time of year and April as far as your anxiety? Is this more anxiety filled, trying to maintain your roster and expand on it, or is April of this year worse, or is it different?
As far as like the team and stuff
Yeah.
like that, I don't really use that word. And it's a good question. It's a really good question. I think I just talked about handling difficult times. I can't expect Gavin Guidry to do that if I can't do that. You know what I mean? And so I would hope, and I can't answer for them, but I would hope the players say that Coach Johnson and his staff showed us how to do that. I think uncertainty maybe it would be a better word. You got to be comfortable with uncertainty now more than ever. 3 days last week, player that looked me in the eye and told me they were returning called me and said they're not returning. I got to be okay with that.
Yeah, is it a deal
Yeah.
you feel like, man, if I would have made one more phone call and that kid felt the love more? Is it?
No, because I will tell you that, not that there's a judge or for this. I think 3 of those players would tell you that it was probably really hard to tell our staff that they were leaving because they did feel loved. They may not agree with everything, but I'm comfortable with how we are with them. And I'm comfortable with how I am with them, and I think it's a reason why we've been really successful everywhere I've been is because myself and our staff is super invested in that, and we'll continue to do that. And so the players that are returning, the players that are incoming will receive that, and it'll only be better, because if I want them to get better, I have to get better, and we have to get better, and we will, and I'm excited about that.
Anything else? Do you feel like your portal exits are what they are, or they're more fun?
I have no idea. I wish I could tell you that, but like I said, this was this, and then it was this, and that's how it's going to be, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Because like I said, if it's 11 position guys and 8 pitchers, and they're the right 19, we'll find a way to make winning really hard on whoever's across from us, and I'm okay with that. And I think there's some benefit for that for the players, and maybe even some of those freshman guys that make it through the draft. But we're going to try to put together the right team. And it becomes hard a little bit in our league because the amount of recruiting that everybody does, it's hard to actually say who's good at it and who's not. It's just masses and then survival of the fittest. Well, if we're going to be good next year, Brady Neal needs to be a good player. Cade Anderson needs to be a good pitcher. Chase Shores needs to be a good pitcher. Larson, Brown need to take a step forward. Milam needs to take a step forward. Any of those 6 guys that come back, they need to take a step forward because it's also about development. And then, when Tommy White shows up or Paul Skeens shows up, you're a better coach. You know what I mean? And I don't know that those guys are out there because those are 2 college baseball Hall of Famers. But there's probably, I don't want to sound too Billy Bean Moneyball-ish, but there's like a team of like 25 to 30 guys out there that we can make life hard on people with what we have in place. And I can't wait. I'm excited. Like, I'm excited waking up. And we got 3 visits, 3 days in a row this week. And there are guys that I think can help that.
Were there any, among the portal losses, were there any that sort of surprised you, took you off guard?
It doesn't matter. Like, I'm not saying that to you. It doesn't matter. And that's what it is. I mean, like I said, there's guys that I care about a lot that went through some stuff that we went through with them. And I'm totally at peace with that and how we run our program and how we treat our players. And if they make that decision, it's like the Navy SEALs. When a guy thinks about leaving the Navy SEALs, he's not ever going to war. You know what I mean? And so it's just the way that it is, and that's okay. And it doesn't mean that you can't have like different feelings and emotions and those types of things about it. But this is a all-in, all the time, committed, believe in myself adventure, or it's going to be really difficult to be at the top. You know what I mean? And that's part of growing up sometimes. And I commend Will Helmers. I mean, how do we get through this long and not talk about that performance that night? I know we talked about it that night, but not one time did Will Helmers ever ask, what's in it for me? Or am I on the roster or not? Or what can I do to play more or pitch more? But he kept getting better. Coach Yeske moved his arm down here. We figured out a couple things. And it's a legendary performance. Like, part of the sadness in losing that is like, dude, and we'll still put pictures of him up in this building, on the mound that night, going like, you got to have Tommy White. You got to have Paul Skeens and Dylan Cruz, but you need Will Helmers. You know what I mean? And, when I talk about the roster the way that I did, like, we need to make sure we have that too.
Among those incoming freshmen, who are some names that you're excited about or
all of them?
Highlight?
All of them. Yeah, we won't bring anybody here that we're not excited about. And, I think it's a well-documented class. I mean, if you look out there and it's been a lot of work. I mean, within days of getting the job, going 1,000 miles an hour just trying to make sure we had, a team for 2022. I mean, I'm 11 o'clock at night and I'm walking around the stadium on my phone talking to one of them from the West Coast, trying to get them to this point, So excited that several of them are going to be here. And they're good dudes, too, good students and good character. And I think the ones that show up will mesh well with what we have.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Okay, guys. Thank you.
Hope we can recreate